Hi everyone, it's Alyssa and this is Always Cinema Chic, the place that encourages you to stay at home, get dressed up, and watch a movie. Only today I'm going to be encouraging you to get dressed up and get out of your house and go watch Dunkirk because it is the best movie that I have seen all year. In fact, I think it's actually the best war film that I've ever seen. And I know that's going to make people angry by me saying that. And I have seen all of the classics. I've seen Apocalypse Now, Saving Private Ryan, Platoon. I've seen so many. But this, for me, is the perfect blend of artistry and realism. And I think this really solidifies the fact that Chris Nolan is the best working director right now, which I know is another statement that some people are going to maybe disagree with. But this film is really outstanding. It stars Mark Rylance, Tom Hardy, Cillian Murphy, Harry Styles, and Kenneth Branagh. And the cast is just superb here. There's no one main character that we're following through the story, but that makes sense because of what this story is about. This film is so effective because it is so focused and concise. So it's only looking at the evacuation of Dunkirk in 1940. So this is just at the moment when Winston Churchill says that there really aren't enough planes and ships to go and save the over 400,000 men that are stuck on the shores by Dunkirk in France, and all they want to do is get home to England. So a bunch of civilian boats end up going over and rescuing these boys, and about 300,000 men were saved during this evacuation at Dunkirk. So it's a very concise story. It's very specific. I think the problem with some war movies is that they could be a little bit too broad, or they're looking over the time period that is just too long of a time period. So the movie can sometimes be a little all over the place. This is so focused, and at an hour and 46 minutes, this is probably one of the shortest war films I've ever seen. And I think that's also what makes it so effective. So the story is told in such an artistic way. Chris Nolan really plays around with time, but he does so in a very subtle way. And he's known for always playing around with time. I think the best example is Memento, where you get the perspective of a person who has short-term memory loss, and the color sequences are going backwards and the black and white sequences are going forwards, and you really feel like you are a person who has short-term memory loss. Here, I think the purpose is to really clarify the events and what is going on. We're getting the story told from the perspective of the land, the sea, and the air. So we're getting all of these different vantage points and ways of looking at this evacuation. I'm going to say how he plays around with time a little bit. So if you don't want to know, I would just skip forward about 45 seconds, although they do show you this in just the first couple minutes of the movie. So right at the beginning, the film starts out and it says the mole, 1 week, the sea, 1 day, the air, 1 hour. And that's telling us, the audience, that everything that you see on the land took place over the course of a week. Everything that you see by the sea took place over the course of the day, and everything in the air took place over the course of an hour. And so you're constantly going back and forth through these 3 different perspectives. Now, early on, the time changes are so subtle that you probably won't even realize that they're going on, but there is one moment where you realize, oh, this is what he's doing, this is what he's going for, and then the chronology of the film all of a sudden just makes perfect sense. So it is brilliant in showing you how this evacuation came about through these 3 perspectives. So when you're watching one sequence that is from the air, you could be getting that same moment in time from the sea, from a different vantage point, but you could be getting it about 10 minutes later in the movie, 20 minutes later in the movie. So I found that in every shot, I was really paying attention to the tiniest things, and then I would notice, that boat that's over there come back around, and then I would see it from the sea. or from the land. And I thought this helped to bring just such great clarity. It also really provides a lot of anxiety because you're cutting so much. I would say you probably don't have a heartbeat if you don't feel absolutely anxiety ridden throughout this entire film. And I think a lot of what adds to that is the score. So Hans Zimmer composed the score, and it feels like there's this heartbeat that is just following you around for the entire movie, and the score almost gets under your skin. It is incredible. If he doesn't get nominated for an Academy Award for Best Score, I'm going to scream. But I know that I always scream around the Academy Awards because the people that should win or get nominated never really do. But I felt like the score here really was another character in the movie. The use of sound here is also very noticeable, and it's used to elicit certain reactions from the audience. At one moment, and I didn't see this in an IMAX movie theater, the entire ground was shaking because of the sound, and it really creates an immersive experience, and there's such urgency in every moment of this film, so that the sound and the soundtrack is just ridiculous. It's so good. The anxiety also comes from the way that the movie is shot. So there are so many cuts, there's so much movement between the land, the sea, and the air, but with all of that, there is also such great clarity with what is going on. Chris Nolan is such a clear director, and he takes on really complex ideas, and to me he just always presents everything in the most clear and complete way. There's not one shot, one sequence that I think should be taken out of this film, and to me that's what constitutes a perfect movie, you know, when it's perfectly edited and concise, and it's telling the story that it wants to tell in the exact right amount of time. And this film absolutely does that. Chris Nolan also wrote this movie, and I would say the writing is exemplary. He doesn't fall into traps that I think lesser writers might fall into. So I think in a war movie there's always the notion that there should be a moment where you learn about, you know, this person's family and this person's background, but there's really no purpose for that. Here, what defines the characters are their actions. I don't need to know their family background to know who they are. It's the way that they behave in those moments, and it's the decisions that those characters make that tells me everything I need to know about them. So when I see Cillian Murphy and he has absolute and utter fear on his face, that's it. I understand. I can understand what he's gone through, and I get that character. When I see Tom Hardy and he is just completely determined to keep people safe, and he disregards his own self-worth, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know, that this guy will do anything to get this particular job done. And there's very little dialogue in the film besides just commands of what to do, and I thought that was 100% the right way to go. It also feels very realistic, I think, as a film. So he really blew me away in terms of the way he composed this story. And now this brings me to the acting. I'm going to be so disappointed if this movie doesn't get a SAG nomination for Best Ensemble Cast, because really they are all standouts in this movie. Every actor just gives so much in their performance, and I couldn't imagine one without the other. When you're watching one scene, you're fully involved in that character's story and what they're doing at that particular moment. But then when you switch sequences, then you are totally involved in that other character's life. So the stakes are just so high, and the actors kind of show that urgency within their performances. And I love that there are the older actors who are the real heavy hitters. So having Mark Rylance and Tom Hardy and Kenneth Branagh, it really just anchors the film in a way that they have some kind of moral compass. These are the characters that are less freed and they just know what they have to do. And then you contrast that with the more unknown actors besides Harry Styles, you realize how scared they are and how dire the situation is and how they're just really trying to survive. I thought the standout young actor was Fionn Whitestone. He has this lanky body and he just finds a way to keep surviving and keep moving on, and he still has this really strong high moral code, and I found myself, really rooting for that character the whole way through. But all of this is really nothing without the directing. I mean, Chris Nolan just makes a beautiful film that I think you should probably try your best to see in the movie theater, although I'll certainly let you guys know when it comes out on Blu-ray. The cinematography is just gorgeous. There's this subtle use of lighting throughout. There's one shot of the plane that's landing and it has this beautiful yellow tint, and even amidst all of the horror and the destruction, there are just such beautiful shots surrounding the film. And what really kept me in the movie and never took me out of it was the constant use of practical effects. Like, I know that there is CGI that's being used in the film, but I couldn't tell you where that CGI is being used because it's just seamless. Chris Nolan is not a director who's ever going to take the easy way out. He will do the practical effect because it looks real. And because it looks real, I feel like I am really there. And in this world of just CGI taking over, I just seen King Arthur, and I'll do a review for that, but I mean, oh my God, every 2 seconds you're looking at CGI, and to just watch a film that is, yes, it's going to be more expensive, yes, it's going to be more difficult, but the outcome is far beyond those other films. And for that reason alone, I'm pretty sure that Warner Brothers is going to let Chris Nolan do whatever he wants when he produces material like this. So when I review movies, I always do it based on 2 criteria. The first one is what it's like as a film, its artistry, and in this case, it is absolutely an A+. The narrative structure, the cinematography, the acting, the character development through, all of the action that we see, it is top notch. This is a film that you cannot miss. In terms of watchability, which is my other criteria, that's really how much you enjoy the movie. And I found that having these subtle shifts in time is what really made me engrossed in the film, and I would absolutely give this an A+ for watchability as well. So this is a movie that you would really be doing a disservice for yourself if you didn't see it. I think everyone is going to like it. It's PG-13, so while it isn't that violent and graphic, I actually thought that helped this movie because I was able to focus on the actions of the men and who they were and what they did, because I wasn't, feeling sick watching very graphic war sequences. So I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I love making these movies. It's so much fun, and I really do thank you for watching this. If you can subscribe and like this particular video, that is always so much appreciated. And remember, in this case, go out, relax, and have a cinema chic night. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.